Hey guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 through 6, we're given at least 3 precautions in connection to passing judgment on others. And one of them is that if you judge, you yourself will be judged. This starts in verse 1 where he says, "Do not judge so that you will not be judged. For with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with what measure you measure, it will be measured to you." So one of the reasons, or one of the precautions we should take in connection to judgment, is to realize that, okay, however strict we are with others, that's how strict they'll be with us, and perhaps even more strict, we could say. Whenever you start trying to be the judge among your peers or among others, you really set yourself up to scrutiny. Because people will say, okay, well, you're telling us how we ought to live. Now look at your own life. And oftentimes we bring upon ourselves judgment when we become very judgy towards other people. And therefore people begin to look at our lives and they begin to scrutinize our lives and maybe every little detail of our lives because, we're doing the same thing to them. And so if we judge others, and if we're the type of person who is characterized by always judging other people and looking down condescendingly upon other people, there's a good chance that will be reflected back on us again. You could think about maybe at the workplace, the individual who always is keeping track of who shows up to work late every day. And maybe he gives those people a hard time and judges them and things like that. Guess what happens the day in which that individual shows up late? Well, you can guess that people are really going to be judging that individual because he's been judging them that whole time for being late, and now yet he shows up late. And so you can see how whenever we are very critical of other people, that criticism oftentimes will bounce back on us whenever we mess up or whenever we fall short. And so we got to be very careful. This is a great precaution. Don't take what Jesus is teaching as a reason to go and in a very arrogant way begin to go judging other people, because there's a very good chance that judgment will bounce back to us. Another reason is because, we can't really accurately and correctly judge others if we ourselves have not adequately dealt with ourselves. That we need to basically deal with ourselves first. That we should be the first people that we scrutinize and judge and kind of hold up to the standard that Jesus is giving on the Sermon on the Mount. In verse 3 he says, "And why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' and behold, the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." So this is the second precaution we should take. And knowing that, because we are fallible, because we also mess up, and because we might be missing the mark, and maybe even missing the mark greatly, it might be keeping us from really, truly being able to accurately judge our brother or sister and correcting our brother and sister. He would say, we need to take care of ourselves first. The Sermon on the Mount, if you think about it, is really for us to internalize and to take personal and to implement in our own lives. Jesus isn't really giving this sermon so that we can go judging other people. It's so that we can look within ourselves and say, okay, am I really living up to this righteousness that exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees? And to look at ourselves, not necessarily to go judging other people. And if we are falling short ourselves, how is it that we will accurately be able to then tell other people how they should measure up and how they should live? And so the second precaution is that, just be very careful, because we need to be looking at ourselves before we go trying to look at other people in their lives. And then lastly, in verse 6, we see him say, do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under your feet and turn and tear you to pieces. And so this third precaution is that, hey, if you go around taking what Jesus is teaching and you just start judging other people and casting your pearls before those who really don't even care in the first place, and the people who perhaps are very antagonistic against what Jesus is saying in the first place, and you're being very condescending and judgmental towards others, and you're casting your pearls before those who won't really appreciate it, you got to be very careful, because they might turn around and actually tear you to pieces. Again, being the type of person who's super critical and always judgmental and that sort of thing, you're really setting yourself up to perhaps some very dire consequences from that, especially if you go being judgmental towards the wrong people. And so we have to be very careful in the way that we share, and not only the way that we share, but also being careful with who we share with, because not everyone is going to be receptive, but always being conscientious of the fact that, we need to be careful about how we handle these pearls, these precious words that Jesus is giving, these holy words that Jesus is giving, and to be able to handle them in a very appropriate and wise way. And so this statement given by Jesus, or these series of statements given by Jesus in this section of Matthew chapter 7, is very, very important. Now, what are we going to do with the Sermon on the Mount? Are we going to use it to knock people over the head and be judgmental and be condescending towards other people? Well, if we do so, we got to be very, very careful, because judgment's going to come back on us. Also, we might even be blinded by our own sins and our own shortcomings. And then lastly, it could be very detrimental to us, especially if we go being judgmental to the wrong type of people. It might very well be that there are dire consequences for that. And so this is a very important section in the Sermon on the Mount, and hopefully we can use it to have some precaution. It doesn't mean that we can't help our brothers and sisters to better follow the Lord, that if we see someone erring, that we can't go and help them out, as Galatians chapter 6 says, but all the while looking to ourselves, lest we be tempted also, Galatians 6 would go on to say. And we just have to be careful the way that we go about it. Again, heeding to these various precautions Jesus gives, knowing that if we don't do it right, there could be some very serious consequences. And hopefully we'll take these words seriously by Jesus. So here's some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.